Everybody, this is just a quick video showing you who's going at each position in these rookie mock drafts. If you think you know who's going to go at this position, leave a comment down below. Who do you think it's going to be? And see if any of my guests who've been on agree with you. And before we get into it, hey, hit that like, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. We're on a march towards, 500 subscribers. I'd love to be able to do it before we get into this season of football. That'd be awesome. So help me out and let's go. Let's see who's going at this draft pick. 1-7. The scream. Do you think? Can you hear the screams getting louder? People just screaming. Anthony, I can hear it. Dave, are you going to relent? Are you going to say no? I will not yield.
I'm going to just give everyone a little some foreshadowing. Anthony Richardson is not in my first. No, he's 107. He's the 107 here. And look, there are some people who are going to out there and they're going to make fun of people for drafting Addison or drafting Anthony Richardson because he's, there's some people who label themselves as analytical people who approach things through numbers and advanced metrics, and they're going to make fun of people who like Anthony Richardson. And that's not necessarily what I'm going. I'm not like, I understand why people want to like Anthony Richardson. I really do. He's at the athleticism, the rushing upside. It's that perceived ceiling is exciting. And I do generally agree that you want to shoot for upside. That's what really separates fantasy players, and those blue chip assets are what win championships. Like, I understand a lot of the philosophy around Anthony Richardson. However, that being said, I just don't think he's a very good quarterback. And I'm sorry. And the way I evaluate quarterbacks now, I miss Josh Allen. I missed it bad. I'm sorry, but I actually liked Jalen Hurts. I thought he was undervalued, but the problem was he was undervalued and going the mid-second round. Anthony Richardson is going at 101 in some places, at 102, 103, 104. And that's the difference, is that I could get Jalen Hurts, who wasn't as accurate as I would like in the mid-second round. Now I don't want to pay that premium, especially what we had, especially what the price for 2023 picks was over the last 2 years. They were astronomical, really hard to acquire. And I bought into some of that. And I do not want to play what I had to get to acquire some of these picks, or what I had to hold, like the offers I had to reject because of this perceived class. I don't want to invest in that in a player who I think is a 30th percentile type passer. Just those type of players don't usually succeed in the NFL. Now, I have a big philosophy in that what you do in college is generally what you do in the NFL. Is that I don't think a lot of times you don't just become better at something in the NFL. I do believe people develop and stuff. I just don't want to bet on that, especially when it's baked into the price. It's nice when CJ Stroud is like, hey, maybe he could run a little more, and that's a bonus. That's how he hits a little bit more upside than you're expecting. That's exciting. But when it's baked in and people are saying he's the QB1 in this class, I can't get behind it because and this is actually just a side note here. He is not the most athletic quarterback ever. Hate to break it to you guys. Cam Newton, as a prospect, would eat Anthony Richardson's lunch. Yeah, he tests better in underwear Olympics, but if you looked at what Cam Newton did on the field against SEC players, he bowled them over. He passed. He had over a 10 average adjusted yards per attempt in college in the SEC at Auburn. And he basically got Kelvin Benjamin drafted in the first round. Anthony Richardson to get any wide receivers drafted in the first round. He didn't, he tasked a little faster. But you look at Cam Newton's agility ratings and what he did in the athleticism measurables, or the agility measurables. He blew that out of the water. Why didn't Anthony Richardson do any of his agility drills? Maybe he didn't have to. Maybe he didn't have to. He could be wicked at agile. I don't know. But what I'm just saying is that I think people are like, get out of here. Cam Newton was a dog. He was a dog, and people remember what he was like the last couple of years in New England. But man, what he did as a prospect at Auburn, and then and I actually made a mistake. I don't think Cam Newton did. I think that was Jameer. I'm getting my players mixed up here, but I got on a tangent here. But yeah, anyway, that being said, enough Anthony Richardson shade here. I do really understand why people like him and why they want to draft him. I'm just not. This is a risk management type thing for me. If I'm investing that kind of capital in there, I don't want to bake in a player developing as a passer when he had, and The inexperience gets me as well. Like, I really care about efficiency and accuracy. Anthony Richardson was not, and I understand that he didn't have a lot of weapons. That being said, the inexperience and his passing profile really concern me. But at 107, I think that's a lot more, especially with how this class ended up going in the NFL draft and how it wasn't get the love that we thought it was going to get. 107 is so much more palatable than up higher. So I could be wrong. I could really hurt my fantasy teams, could really hurt the people who followed my advice, could really hurt from this. But this is just about risk management. And I'd rather take the risk on Jahmyr Gibbs, on Jackson and Jigba than I would even than an Anthony Richardson.
It's so fascinating because even like you mentioned CJ Stroud and like you're like, oh, could he have the rushing upside? At least there's like some historical data where you look at that Ohio State system and someone like a Justin Fields who had the same question marks about him, like, can he run the ball? We don't know. He kind of stared down his receivers and he was a pocket guy, and then look at him now, right? The second he's allowed off that leash, he's like this dynamic runner. Could CJ Stroud have the same thing once that Ohio State leash has kind of been taken off him? Maybe. But I don't know. You might know more than me about this, Dave, but I doubt there's much historical data for, a 30th percentile passer making it big in the NFL.
It basically is you got Josh Allen, and then not a lot out. Like, not. I think Jalen Hurts was way ahead of Anthony Richardson as a passer. Now what you just brought up, mate. Thank you for bringing this up. I think there's some cognitive dissonance being brought up here. People are like, "Oh, well, these things could develop for Anthony Richardson because that ceiling is there. If those things develop, that ceiling is sky high." Well, so people are saying that things could develop for Anthony Richardson. Well, what if things develop for Bryce Young? What if things develop for CJ Stroud? Like, if we're going to play this, hey, what if game with Anthony Richardson, why can't we play this what if game with other players too? So I think, right? I think that's just not, I just think you're not being intellectually honest if you're going to play that game. So that's kind of what, now, that being said, I still respect, I'm not going to like poo-poo the idea because I do understand why people like Anthony Richardson. So I want to make sure, like, I'm not going to tons of respect for those people and everything, but it's just, it comes down to brass tacks for me.
And so who's starting up at pick number 7 then of the first round for you?
Yeah, so this is a pretty confident pick for me, and who's my wide receiver 2 in this class? It's Jordan Addison. Really liked him before the NFL draft. The fact that he's gone to the Vikings with that 24th overall pick. I love the landing spot, Mags. I'll be honest, I absolutely love it. We've mentioned it 2 or 3 times on the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show, how much of a dream scenario it would be seeing him land with the Vikings. People are maybe going to say, well, he's going to be behind Justin Jefferson. That's not a bad thing to be behind Justin Jefferson. He's going to take a lot of attention away from Addison. We know the Vikings have now become one of the most pass-heavy teams in the NFL. I think people look at the Vikings and still maybe think to that time when it was Dalvin Cook running the ball, there was a run-heavy team. But in recent years, they've become a real pass-heavy team. I believe that Kirk Cousins ranked second in terms of pass attempts. He ranked second in terms of red zone pass attempts as well. So you're getting that added bonus of if they get near the red zone, they're not always going to be running the ball. They're going to be willing to throw the ball, and Addison can benefit from that. So I love the fact that he's landed with the Vikings, being the wide receiver 2. I feel like that's going to keep his value at a solid enough level where you can invest in a cheap enough value to get a wide receiver in fantasy that could be with the likes of a T. Higgins or a Jalen Waddle. That's a wide receiver 2 on the team, valued as a wide receiver 2, but the upside is far greater than that. And if anything were to ever happen to Justin Jefferson, you've got a locked-in wide receiver 1 on a pass-heavy offense. I mean, it's a smash for me. He's in a tier on his own above the following wide receivers that we're going to talk about. And to be honest, he's probably pushing to get into that tier with JSN and Gibbs for me because I love the potential upside he's got.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned T. Higgins. So this kind of feels like that by the end of the year. I mean, obviously Justin Jefferson is so good, but could be close to like that 1A, 1B. I know Jefferson's probably going to be 1 overall, but almost like AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, right? Where AJ Brown's obviously this monster, but Devonta Smith's still like top 12 wide receiver in the NFL last year for Dynasty. So yeah, Jordan Addison could sneak in there. And like you said, the Vikings are great. They have got like Justin Jefferson, who's obviously very fantasy relevant. Adam Thielen has been fantasy relevant for years. TJ Hawkinson is fantasy relevant. This is a team more than capable of of getting fantasy relevant, pass catchers in there, and Jordan Addison's going to be no different. So I love that pick at 1-7.
And Cousins is probably playing for his NFL future as well, isn't he? So I mean, that's another added incentive of knowing that he's going to want to throw the ball to impress other teams or keep his contract with the Vikings. So yeah, I love Addison. In redraft, he would probably be the wide receiver one that I'd take out of this class in season long leagues. I think he's got the highest ceiling in year one.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on there. So who's following him up at pick 7?
Yeah, so I'll go for my wide receiver 2 in Jordan Addison, who just fell to the perfect spot for a wide receiver opposite Justin Jefferson, probably the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. It's just set up absolutely perfect with Adam Thielen moving on to Carolina. I think Jordan Addison, I'm going to have a sneaky bet on him being offensive rookie of the year. I think his odds are fairly long compared to, say, Bijan and the quarterbacks. I think it takes a couple of injuries, but Jordan Addison for me is going to put up the most yardage for a rookie wide receiver. I think he's going to absolutely smash from year one, and we know the talent is there for Jordan Addison. So it's just an absolute perfect spot for him. I'm taking him over at 107. I think I've got a couple of shares both at this spot. I feel really good about it. There's not a massive tier break from JSN to Jordan Addison from what happened in the NFL draft. Yeah, I love Addison in this spot.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's really good value here at 1-7. Who's next to him at 1-8?
So I am going to go with Quentin Johnston. I similar reasons. I really like the landing spot here. I really like him at the Chargers, and I think he's going to be the same as sort of what Mike Williams was. I think he's going to step into that role more than anything. I think he's going to see plenty of targets. I think Mike Williams is on a downward spiral. I think Keenan Allen's still up there, but I think within 12 months this guy could genuinely be the wide receiver one in this team. And I think if he can learn to connect with Justin Herbert, I think the sky's the limit for Quentin Johnston, to be honest, mate.
Justin Herbert was like the perfect quarterback for him, I think, as well. Like, he just slots in really nicely into that team. I've said it many times, I'm not that high on Quentin Johnston, but I love Justin Herbert. I have doubts about Quentin Johnston's hands, but if Justin Herbert is throwing him passes, they become a lot easier to catch. So that kind of thing does play in my mind as well. A guy that I thought I wouldn't end up with any shares of, I gotta get at least one, I think, of Quentin Johnston, right? Just because that link up with Justin Herbert could be really, really special. And he's got the tool set, but he needs to play a bit bigger for his size, and hopefully he gets coached up there at the Chargers and he can do that. So I think he's good value there at 1-8, and you got a couple of picks left in the first round.
But yeah, so that takes us to the end of the 106 or the first 6 picks, and now is where everyone is sort of saying the drafts really start. So where are we going at 107?
It doesn't really though, right? It doesn't really, because everyone takes the same guy at 107 anyway. I feel like it's the first 7 picks, honestly. Like, so more than anything else.
You're going to take Will Levis as well, aren't you?
I'm taking Ali Cook's outside bet for anyone who doesn't know. It's Jordan Addison, the guy that is great odds for offensive rookie player of the year. I love Jordan Addison. I love the landing spot. I love the confidence. Love to suit at the draft. How awesome was that? I think this guy is going to really, really do well at the Minnesota Vikings because he's got Justin Jefferson there, because he's got TJ Hawkinson there, because they've got, a pretty decent run game. Who knows what's going to happen with Dalvin Cook, but Alexander Mattison is a perfectly capable back to have there. Yeah, I think everything's set up for success for Jordan Addison. The Vikings still will probably suck defensively next year, so they're going to have to throw the ball a lot still, just like they did last year. One of the highest scoring offenses in the league. This is going to be awesome for Jordan Addison. I think we're going to be talking about this time next year who's got the best wide receiver duo in the league. Is it, the AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith? Is it T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, or is it Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison? That's how good I think he is.
Are you not putting DK and JSN in that list?
DK, JSN, yeah, absolutely. Put them in there too. And Kadarius Tony Sky Moore, obviously, as well.
Or Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Oh, yeah, right. I think that's how good Jordan Addison is, right? He can be in that conversation with obviously Justin Jefferson. That helps a hell of a lot. But he could be in that conversation with those guys, because people aren't going to just dismiss Addison like as this guy. Like, he doesn't. It's only Justin Jefferson. I think he's that good that he can be in that conversation.
Yeah. I love it. I love that pick. I think it's spot on for where he is.